When no one believed in her, God lifted her up. A true story inspired by Psalm 27. Have you ever gone through a season so dark that you weren't even sure you could survive it? Today, I want to share with you the story of a young woman who, surrounded by abandonment, anxiety, and fear, found a powerful light shining through the darkness. This story is inspired by Psalm 27, and I promise you won't be able to stop watching until the very end. If you love soul-stirring content, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay with us. Each story reflects what God can do, even when everything seems lost. Whom shall I fear? Luciana was only 17 when life pushed her to the edge. Her mother had fallen seriously ill. Her father had abandoned them years ago, and now child services were threatening to separate her from her little brother. Bills were piling up. The fridge was nearly empty, and so was her spirit. One afternoon, after a long day of job hunting with no success, Luciana returned home with tears in her eyes. She sat on the floor, her little brother asleep beside her. And there, tucked inside her mother's old Bible, she found a wrinkled piece of paper. It was handwritten. It read, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" Psalm 27 verse 1. Those words pierced her soul. She couldn't understand how her mother had written that in the middle of so much suffering. But as she read it, something inside her reignited. That night, with the darkness pressing in, Luciana lit a small candle, knelt down, and for the first time in a long time, spoke to God. "I don't know if you can hear me, but if you are my light, please show me I'm not alone." And then, something unexpected happened. A call in the darkness. That night, as Luciana prayed silently with her eyes closed, she felt a shiver, as if something invisible was gently embracing her from the inside. It was a peace that didn't come from this world, a deep certainty that had no logical explanation. Suddenly, her mother's phone, which had been dead for weeks due to a dead battery, turned on by itself. Luciana stared in disbelief. The screen lit up with an incoming call from an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Luciana?" said a warm voice on the other end. "This is Elena, a nurse from the hospital where your mother was treated months ago. We saved her number in case of an emergency. But last night, I had a dream about her. She asked me to call you." Luciana couldn't speak. She was frozen. "You dreamed about my mom?" "Yes," she said. "Call my daughter. Tell her not to be afraid. God has heard her cry." Tears began streaming down Luciana's face. "I'll come by your home tomorrow. I have connections that can help you find a job, and someone who can assist with your little brother as well." The call ended. Luciana covered her face with her hands. God had answered. He had seen her pain. And just when she was about to give up, he sent light into her darkness. "Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear." Psalm 27 verse 3. God makes a way where there is none. The next morning, Luciana woke up before sunrise. Something felt different. A quiet hope, like the first light of dawn slipping through the window. She made some oatmeal with the little they had left, got her little brother dressed, and gently told him someone special would be visiting today. Still half asleep, he hugged her tightly. "Is something good going to happen today?" he asked innocently. "Yes, Matteo, today, God is going to open a door," she replied, her smile trembling with emotion. At exactly 9 a.m., Elena arrived. A woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a warm energy that seemed to fill the entire room. She brought bags full of food, clothes, and something even more valuable: opportunities. "I spoke with a friend of mine," Elena said. "She owns a small cafe and is looking for someone to help with the afternoon shift. It's not much at first, but it's a start. What do you think? Luciana's eyes filled with tears. I think yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me, Elena said as she gently ran her hand over Mateo's hair. Thank God. He's the one who woke me up that night. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. Psalm 27 verse 4. For the first time in a very long while, Luciana laughed. Truly laughed. Her heart still carried wounds, but now it beat with courage and faith. Because when you place your trust in God, closed doors open, walls crumble, and fear loses its grip. When God holds you up, Luciana started working at the cafe that very week. The first few days were tough. She had to leave Mateo with a neighbor, walk over 30 minutes to get to work, and spend long hours on her feet. But she never complained. She had a purpose. And above all, she had a powerful certainty that carried her through. God was with her. Whenever she felt worn out, she would reach into her pocket and touch the crumpled paper she still kept close. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? One afternoon, as she was serving coffee, one of the regular customers approached her. He was an elderly man with a kind face, always generous with his tips. I've been watching you, young lady. You work with care. But there's something else in you. Is it faith? Luciana smiled. Yes, I think it's the only thing that's kept me going. The man nodded slowly, like someone who understood all too well. When I was your age, I also had to walk through darkness. But I learned something. God is never late. That night, when Luciana returned home, she found Mateo asleep holding a drawing in his tiny hands. It showed a big, bright sun, and beneath it, the two of them holding hands. This is you, he told her the next day. And this is God watching over us from above. Luciana hugged her little brother tightly, and for the first time they prayed together. For in the day of trouble he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his sacred tent and set me high upon a rock. Psalm 27 verse 5. It was no longer just about surviving. It was about truly living under the protection of a real and loving God. When you least expect it, God shows up. Days went by, and Luciana became a key part of the cafe team. Her boss admired her for her punctuality, the warmth she showed to every customer, and most of all, her unwavering joy, even on hard days. One afternoon, as she was wiping down a table, she noticed the kind elderly man walk in again. But this time he wasn't alone. By his side was a well-dressed man in a gray suit with calm eyes and a quiet strength. Luciana, said the older man, I want you to meet my son. He owns several cafes across the city. I told him about you, and he wants to offer you an opportunity. Luciana froze. An opportunity? The man extended his hand with a gentle smile. I've heard your story. It's rare to find someone your age who's gone through so much and still holds on to such strong faith. I'd like to offer you something. A full scholarship to finish your studies and a position on my administrative team. Luciana couldn't speak. She could only hear the pounding of her heart and a soft whisper in her soul, like the Holy Spirit speaking straight to her. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Psalm 27 verse 10. With tears filling her eyes, Luciana said yes. God had not only pulled her out of the darkness, he was lifting her into a place of honor. And in that sacred moment, she understood something powerful. When you trust God, even when you don't understand, he works in the unseen to give you a future full of hope. From the valley to the mountain, life began to flow differently. Luciana no walked with her head down anymore. She woke up early, helped Mateo with his homework, and then headed to the training center where she had started studying business administration, thanks to the scholarship. In the afternoons, she worked at one of the company's offices. Her co-workers admired her, not for her achievements alone, but for something harder to define: a peace, a quiet strength, a light in her eyes that couldn't be explained. Even the businessman who had given her the opportunity began to see her like a daughter. One day, during a meeting, he looked at her and said, "Luciana, it's not just your responsibility that impresses me. It's your heart. What's your secret?" She didn't hesitate. "My secret is Jesus. He lifted me up when I had no strength. He sent help when everything was falling apart. He is my light and my salvation." The man, visibly moved, nodded with deep respect. At night, Luciana and Matteo still prayed together, but now they did it kneeling, hand in hand, grateful not only for what they had, but for having met a God who never abandons. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Psalm 27 verse 14. What once seemed like a hopeless tragedy was now a living testimony of victory, and Luciana knew deep in her soul it had all started with a prayer in the darkness, and a faith that refused to be extinguished. From the valley to the mountain, days began to flow differently. Luciana no longer walked with her head down. Now she woke up early, helped Matteo with his schoolwork, and headed to the training center where she had started studying business administration, thanks to the scholarship God had sent her way. In the afternoons, she worked at one of the offices of the business group. Her co-workers admired her, not just for her dedication, but for something deeper. There was a peace in her presence, a maturity beyond her years, a light in her eyes that could only come from above. Even the businessman who had hired her began to see her like a daughter. One day, during a meeting, he said, "Luciana, it's not just your work ethic that amazes me. It's your heart. What's your secret?" She smiled, without hesitation. "My secret is Jesus. He lifted me when I had no strength. He sent help when everything was lost. He is my light and my salvation." The man nodded, visibly moved. He didn't need to hear anything else. Every night, Luciana and Matteo still knelt to pray together. They didn't just pray for what they had. They thanked God for revealing himself in the darkest moment of their lives, for being their shelter, their provider, their father. Wait on the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait on the Lord. Psalm 27 verse 14. What once felt like the end had become a beginning, and Luciana knew this truth deep in her soul. Everything had started with a single prayer in the dark, and a faith that refused to burn out. Your story isn't over yet. Luciana and Matteo walked home together after the event. It was nighttime, but there was no darkness that could scare them. The streets, though humble, looked different now. They were no longer a path of suffering, but a road marked by miracles. When they got home, Luciana opened her prayer journal. That old, worn-out paper where she had written Psalm 27 was still there. She smiled, folded it carefully, and wrote a new line beneath it. "Thank you, Lord, because I waited on you, and you did not fail me." Matteo leaned against her shoulder and softly said, "Do you think one day I could help someone the way you helped me?" Luciana looked at him tenderly. "I don't just believe it, I know it, because when God touches a life, he changes it forever." This isn't just Luciana's story. It's the story of many who are quietly fighting today, but still trusting. And if you're listening and feeling lost, let me tell you this. Wait on the Lord. Even when everything seems dark, he is your light. Even when everything else fails, he remains steadfast. Your story doesn't end in pain. It ends in his glory. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27 verse 1. Thank you for staying with us until the end. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this message with someone who needs a word of faith today.